Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Your girl, Cassandra Marie. I am still your host here of Under His Construction. And yes, we are here with a special Mother's Day edition today. And it's just me, no special guests, no panel. It's just me here sharing with you the power of a staying mother. What keeps a mother staying in place when the children has sent her to her absolute wits end? What keeps a mother there, staying next to her child, where she sees no other way, where she has been just don't see no other way out? The child has just taken her to where she sees. Jesus is her only way, her only way. She's done everything possible. Well, today I'm going to take you through my journey, share my personal testimony with you on today. Please share with me your questions and answers right here through YouTube and Facebook Live. So as always, we are here to encourage and inspire your daily living. So it's my prayer that today's special will do the same, that it will encourage and inspire your daily living, that you will find some identity in it and know that if this is part of your story, that you are not alone and God will also deliver you as well. So sit back and enjoy the power of a staying mother.
Work on me, fix everything, make me over head to toe if necessary. Moving forward kind of frightens me, but it's the only way to get the best out of my life. So I try to strip the mask off, try my best to release all of me to this process of newness, reinvention and grooming. The power within, I might win, I just might win. I am under construction, doing what I gotta do for me, seeing what I need to see, fixing every single part of me. I am under construction. Tell the dark clouds to move, but let me grab my tea and my notebook, so I can get to the living room. Hey, get to the living room. Yes.
Thank you so much. We are back. Thank you for joining us. We are back in the living room of Under His Construction. Listen, my producer is not here today, so it's me working things out. So forgive me if any technology or glitches are here. I do have music playing. I do not own the rights to this music. So let me be clear on that. I do not own the rights to this music. Please join me with your questions and comments right there in the comment line, in the chat line, there on Facebook or YouTube. Thank you so much. Um, First of all, let me just say, God is good. God is truly good. And I just want to thank him for his blessings and his favor over my life. Um, I had my first child at 24 years old. I'm just trying to get this volume right. I had my first child at 24 years old, in a relationship with a man. Now, I didn't know a whole lot about motherhood. I grew up in a family. Um, my mother was the second child of 9 girls, and I saw a lot of women, and she was the first to have a child out of her siblings. So that makes me the oldest, right? Out of all of the grandchildren. So I didn't get to watch a lot of motherhood besides my grandmother in play, you know. So my grandmother was really my first example of motherhood, watching her through how she raised her children. And my grandmother was kind of stern. She was very stern, and her idea of love was provision. She provided food, shelter, and clothing. That was her love language. So that's what she taught my mother. And that's what my mother love language was. They felt like they provided the basics for you. You were taken care of. You shouldn't really, there was nothing for you to complain about. You were taken care of. You had everything you need. Even some of your wants were met. They weren't really the nurturing coochie coochie coo type, you know. So they were stern, meet your need. I don't ever remember, out of all my grandmother beautiful girls, I don't ever remember her calling any of her girls beautiful. I don't ever remember hearing it, I would say. Now maybe she did and I just wasn't present, but I just never remember hearing her say, "Hey, beautiful," or "You're so beautiful," or "Come here, my beautiful so and so," or "Come here, my precious so and so," or "You look so beautiful today." That just not was the way she expressed herself. Like she never called her girls. I don't ever remember telling them they look pretty or they just look beautiful. And it's kind of strange because she had 9 girls. Um, Although she was very prejudiced against over obesity, she felt like her perception of obesity was disgusting. She felt like it was a sign of laziness, and she felt like it was uncalled for. It was no need. Obesity was unnecessary. In her through her lenses, obesity was very unnecessary. There was no reason to be obese through her eyes. She didn't look at it as a medical condition or anything. She just looked at it as pure laziness. And you got teased about it. You got ostracized. I got ostracized about it. And you got talked about it, blatantly talked about to your face, kind of tough, if you were overweight. And I grew up as an overweight child. So this was just the environment. These were the standards of motherhood that I grew up in, So the women, I thank God for the women that He sent in my life to shape me, to pour the ingredients in my life. Now, my grandmother came with some good stuff. Now, she taught me a whole lot more. She taught about steadfastness and faithfulness and work and how to provide and how to be consistent and faithful into what you do. And she was the first homeowner of her generation, and she learned how to read and write, you know even going back to school, and she did some amazing things. So I'm very proud of my grandmother, very proud of her, and I looked up to her in so many special ways. So at which I became very proud of my mom, who was a teenage mom, becoming impregnant with me in her last year of high school, and going on back to high school in her senior year, never missing a beat, graduating, doing what she needed to do, always had that do what you need to do type of attitude, and going on to have a career in nursing, and making a career in providing for her and her child. My mom had an attitude where she didn't want to have to ask anybody for anything. She wanted to be an independent provider for her and her child. And that was another example of motherhood for me. So here my grandmother was one example of motherhood. That's her, Elma Ratliff. She was my first example. She was one ingredient of motherhood. And then my mom here, Katie, was the second ingredient of motherhood, who showed me that anything you want in life you could have. If you work hard at it, you could have. If you My mother didn't play about sleeping past 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. She would say, half the morning is gone. Why are you still asleep? You know, you could be doing so many productive things. It's too many productive things you could be doing. Sleeping is unproductive. Sleeping is what you to necessary to get what you need to do the necessary things. So that was my mother perception and attitude towards sleep. Like there's too many other things you could be doing besides sleep. You're wasting your life away by just sleeping. You could, even if you're just reading a book, you could be doing something to better yourself. That was always my mother attitude. I grew up in a home full of books, full of books. My mother loved education. Even in her lifestyle that she led, she still enjoyed education. So even in being a mother to me, that atmosphere, that element was still in the home. You know, um, and then my aunt Christine was another. Um, she was another ingredient here. I don't have a picture of her here, but my aunt Christine was another ingredient of womanhood that played a part in my life. My aunt Christine and my aunt May. Uh, I'll show you this picture here. My Aunt May was another ingredient. She was the nurturing one. That's my grandmother's youngest sister. And she was the nurturing side to my grandmother. She was the softer side. So, I would go to Aunt May when I need the nurturing part. So she added a different type of ingredient of motherhood into shaping who I was. And uh and and I just wanted to share with you real quick. There were 8 women that God sent, and she was one of those women. And then there was my aunt Sandra. There was my aunt Sandra here. Then there was she later came and added the spirituality side of shape ingredient to my life. And then there was Pastor Carol McMillan, who also taught me how to be a lady. She was the first lady of the first church that I joined. So I watched her and how she treated her daughter and how she interacted with her husband and in her ladyhood. So she showed me how to be a mother. Pastor Phyllis, who also played such a big part, an ingredient. God used her to be an ingredient in my life. And then there was Dr. Fleta Bull, who showed me that sternness, that you had to be true to yourself. You could not lie to yourself. Don't fool yourself by lying to yourself. That self-honesty was the best principle you can ever give yourself. That it will take you farther than any other principle. And she poured that ingredient into me. And these are the 8 women that seasoned my life and flavored my life and shaped my life into the woman that I am today. So at age 24 years old, when I became pregnant with my first child, already now in the grip of a crack cocaine addiction. I'm pregnant with my first child. I'm looking for attention. I'm looking for a community to belong in because I didn't feel like I fit in the community of my family. So I'm looking for a community that would accept me. So I find this community called Potter's Crossing out in a little piece of town called Edison, New Jersey, hidden way back in the woods of this suburban town of Edison. You would never know, built on top of a graveyard. A whole bunch of black folks stuffed back there. And I stumble across this little place called Potter's Crossing. And they were ready to accept me because they were a big barrel crabs themselves. And they accept me for who I was. And I adapted to their community very quickly. The women there, I adapted to their culture of use and abuse of drugs. I began to date one of the men from their community, and I began to just fit right in. And my addiction soared. It soared, and it skyrocketed. The women in that community used through their addiction, so it was the norm. It was the absolute norm. So I did the same. When I became pregnant, I did not stop smoking crack cocaine. I did not stop. I continued to do it throughout my pregnancy and for the first pregnancy. And thank God my son came out and he was healthy. And I continued using even after that birth. And then the addiction soared to heroin. Um, After the addiction escalated to heroin, now it's a combination of heroin and cocaine. Motherhood still was trying to be present during the addiction, but it was somehow accompanied at the same time. I was still just providing, still having to do what I need to do type of attitude, still just providing the bare necessities through crime, through whatever I needed to do while feeding addiction. I was also providing for me and my child, even if it had to be through state assistance. I want to thank Elder Eleanor Davis for coming on. Thank you, Katie Ratliff, my mom. She said, through God's grace and mercy, I thank him every day, all the time. Um, I thank him too. But mm, whew, this is the first time I'm doing this in this format. So just give me a second. Because motherhood, I became pretty much robotic. I became robotic, just doing what I had to do. My emotions wasn't attached to it. I was just doing it because I was in a situation and had to do it. Felt like I didn't have a choice because I had a child and I had to do it. So as I exit the first relationship with my son's father, and I jump into the very next relationship that helped me in my heroin addiction, and me and him both soar in this relationship, soar in this addiction with heroin and using and abusing heroin um, for the next 8 years. We're running and gunning. I get pregnant with my daughter. And by the end of this 8 year relationship, which I thought was the end, um, he decides that he had no more use for me. I'm now living in North Newark. By this time, it's 2006. I'm sorry, it's 1997. 1997. Um, and I'm suicidal. I'm at the peak of my addiction, but I'm very desperate and suicidal. I'm living and on fifth floor in North Newark, and I decide I don't want to live anymore. And I told God I was tired. I was going to take my life. And I took a bottle of pills and I sniffed a bag of heroin and I said I wasn't going to wake up. But something miraculous happened. The next morning, I woke up and I remember being so angry at God that I woke up and I screamed, "Why did you do this to me? Why did you allow me to wake up just to be in pain all over again?" The state had taken my son, declared me unfit to be a mother, and rightly so, rightly so. I was not fit. And now I'm pregnant with my second child. The man who I thought I loved, which I knew nothing about love, knew nothing about real love anyway, had visited me. And because I could no longer meet his need, he was leaving, getting on the elevator, looked me in my face and told me, "I don't love you anymore," and hit the down button and left me with an addiction that he started me with and pregnant and left me. And I never saw him again for the next 9 months during that pregnancy. You want to talk about anger inside out. I was very angry. So I'm still talking about motherhood here. By the end of that pregnancy, I give birth. God cocooned that child in my womb, cocooned her in my womb, and she came out healthy. By then, even being in and out of jail during that pregnancy, doing so much criminal activity, I got saved in jail. I had given my life to Christ in jail because my Aunt Christine during that time had introduced me to Jesus. She said, "Cassandra, I know a man who could help you." And she took me to a church one day and set me on the front row. And I had my first experience with God. Well, after that, I continued using and I got locked up and I ended up in jail. So when a Bible study group came in one night and they asked, would anybody like to give their life to Jesus? I felt inclined and said, yes, I would. But then the devil lied to me when I got out and told me that I wasn't sincere. So I kept using. I believed the devil and kept using. So I went on for another 9 months, and a situation caused me to go into a program for women and children. And it was there that my new beginning started in August 15th of 1998. And it was there that I first met Pastor, late First Lady McMillan. And she began to show me what a woman of God looked like and what a woman of God walked like and what she sounded like and how God loved us no matter what. And she began to show me how that no matter what flaws we have and what mistakes we have, that God looks past that. He looks at us through his son. He looks at us through the eyes of the son. He doesn't look at us through who we were or who we are. He looks at us in who we are going to be, not who we are now, in our predestined state. That's how God looks at us. And her and her husband, Pastor McMillan, kind of took me under their wing and began to nurture me as a new believer. Those were the ingredients that began to flavor and season my life. And it was 6 months later, I went into a transitional housing and met Fleta Bull. Now Dr. Fleetable entered me with the truth of who Cassandra really was. And she challenged me with that truth. And she challenged me with that truth till I no longer was willing to run from that truth. She taught me that it was okay to embrace that truth, that it was okay to be who God created me to be. Even with all my flaws and my mistakes and my mishaps, that it was okay to be who I was to be, who God created me to be, and that I was not my mistakes. I was not my failures. I was not my mishaps, that they were there to strengthen me and they were there for me to tell somebody else how they can get through. And she was there to pour those type of season me with that ingredient. And 25 years later, she is still seasoning my life. So I thank God for her. And as motherhood changed for me, and I went on and I got married, actually to that same man. He got saved. Praise God, he got saved, and God broke God God broke those chains. He broke those old habits and he broke those chains. He broke that broken woman. I was no longer broken anymore. He became my strength. He became my redeemer because women began to pray for me. They begin to lift up my arms until I can lift them up myself. They begin to hold my arms up until I can hold them up myself. They crowned me. Women in the Lord, they crowned me. They didn't talk about me. They didn't, tear me down. They crowned me. They didn't see me as this brokenness. They saw me as a strong woman in the Lord. So as I went on in life and continued to serve the Lord, humbly serving the Lord, so appreciative and so grateful for what God had done for me, I just wanted to serve him, and my motherhood turned into parenthood, you know, um, and all the things I had put my mother through, all the in and out of jail, and all the bail money, all the worried nights. I became so remorseful. Um, I remember the day when people used to try to tell my mother, just leave her in jail, just leave her there, or just leave her out there. My mother would never leave me. She will always come get me. God said he will never leave you nor forsake you. When you love somebody, in her love for her daughter caused her to stay. She saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. She had a strength for me that I didn't have for myself. A mother staying power. And I remember the day when I moved into my first apartment and I was sitting on the couch having a conversation with her, just a regular conversation. I'm just talking. And she said to me, wow, I got my daughter back. And I was like, whoa. She was so happy to hear the voice of her daughter. I'm talking about a mother staying power. So I pray that this encourages somebody. If your child is out there and it looks like there's no way, I'm telling you, don't give up on them. Don't give up on them. Trust God for the plans he has for their life. Stay, stick and stay with them. Now that doesn't always mean giving them money and supporting their habits. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not talking about being an enabler. I'm talking about staying power through Jesus is what I'm talking about. Through the love of a mother, through the love of a mother, you know. So, and because that is what kept me, is that ingredient that continued to season my life and flavor my life. So by the time I got to my third child, I was full, I was seasoned so well that all of my children was benefiting from me being seasoned. They were all benefiting from me being this seasoned mother. So now we're having breakfast together, and I'm cooking dinner, and we're doing things as a family, and they have a mom, they have a parent, they have me. I'm showing up saying, how was school today? I'm being there when they get home from school, not having people run in and out of the house, the door constant revolving door, not having different people over all different times of the night. They have a normal home. They have a family. They have something that they can be proud of. They have a mom. They have a mother. Do you know how proud a child is when they say, "This is my mother"? This is my mother. This is my mother. When you show up to their basketball games or their football games or they music or they recitals, and they say, "This is my mother. This is my mother." Jesus does the same way with us. This is my son. This is my beloved son who I am well pleased. This is my beloved son. This is my father. This is a representation of me. Hallelujah. The power, staying power. Staying power. God does such great, great work. Great, great work. So, so we all became a family. We all was, continue to be blessed, even though life looks different for us all. We still growing together. We still learning together. We still, life is showing up in all different ways. We're in different phases of life, but we're doing it together. We're doing it together. We are still the ingredients in each other's life. Praise be to God. I couldn't ask for a better mom. I couldn't ask for a better family. I thank God for my family. I wouldn't want to replace them with any other family. So the power of staying, the power of staying. So I implore you today, stay, just stay one more day. If you can just stay. So thank you all for joining me this evening. I thank you. I pray that you thought it not robbery just to join me for a few minutes on this evening. Look for me. Look for us next week as we come back with on singleness, steadfast in our singleness. That's what we'll be talking about next week. So join us right back here, same time, same place, as we'll have a panel discussion with 4 single people talking about their walk in singleness. So I love you all. And as I always say, I love you and there's nothing you can do about it. So just receive it with the love of Christ. Until next time, bye-bye. Right here. I see you right here or under his construction. Bye-bye.
Work on me, fix everything, make me over head to toe if necessary. Moving forward kind of frightens me, but it's the only way to get the best out of my life. So I try to strip the mask off, try my best to release all of me to this process of newness, reinvention and grooming. The power within, I might win, I just might win. I am under construction, doing what I gotta do for me, seeing what I need to see, fixing every single part of me. I am under construction. Tell the dark clouds to move up. Let me grab my tea and my notebook.